embrace the environmental side of me again, because I've always been a nature-loving kid. I was this crazy recycling kid that was, always collecting waste, and no one could really understand it because they would think, oh, you just throw it away and it'll be someone else's problem. I brought people along that journey because I was just so absorbed in it. But when I brought people along that journey with me on social media, then I started to really see what influence means. You don't have to influence people to buy the next thing. You can influence people to reprogram our programming of consumption so that we all live in greater harmony with the planet and ourselves as well.
So how do you see the role of celebrities and these big influencers to sensitize people about combating the plastic pollution? Because it's very huge, it's everywhere.
Celebrities play a very important role in this. So some really great examples that I enjoy looking out for is like Jason Momoa. Jason Momoa is Aquaman, as we know him, and I think he's really used his position really well because people know him as Aquaman. And Aquaman is, king of the ocean. Like he's got that's his domain, and that's the place that he wants to protect, even if in real life he's Jason Momoa. So it's nice to see him carry that mantle of continuing to become Aquaman and using that identity, and even not just not using single-use plastic in his life or reducing it greatly. He's not afraid to call out his friends as well. So when he called out Chris Pratt on social media for holding a plastic water bottle.
Welcome everyone to Planet vs. Plastics podcast series. I'm your host Rumit Walia for this insightful journey into a world free from plastic pollution. Today's episode is Celebrities versus Plastics, and for that we have a very special guest with us from Malaysia, Miss Melissa Tan, who is an actress, model and also an Earth Day ambassador. Her journey has been very inspiring. A lot of fans have been following her into the journey of saving this planet from plastics. But before we dive in, here's a quick reminder. The views expressed here are for general informational purposes, and we encourage you to do your own research. We're here to spark ideas, inspire change, and navigate the complexities of plastic pollution. Welcome, Melissa Tan, to the Planet vs. Plastics podcast series. And as an actress and also an Earth Day ambassador, can you tell us about your journey in advocating for the health of this planet and especially ending the plastic pollution?
Oh, thanks so much, Rumit. It's amazing to be here. My journey started very much on a personal level. I was very aware of, my role as an actress, a TV host, modeling, being in the public eye and having a social media platform and having people want to watch my journey. So at that point in time, when anyone has a social media presence, they tend to be used for a lot of marketing, selling of all the brands and products that you have to make your life better. But then I went onto this whole reflection process of what it means to come back to my roots and, embrace the environmental side of me again, because I've always been a nature-loving kid. I was this crazy recycling kid that was always collecting waste, and no one could really understand it because they would think, oh, you just throw it away and it'll be someone else's problem. So when I met someone who was a zero waste advocate here in Malaysia, it was like a light bulb went off, because I thought I was doing everything that I could with plastic. I was avoiding the plastic that I thought was unrecyclable, and then everything else I just kind of took it as, that's just too bad. This can't be recycled. Yeah. And then she brought the idea of, well, what if you just refuse? What if you just didn't create the waste in the first place? Then there will be nothing to consider. Is this recyclable? Is this not? Even if it is recyclable, why even go through that process? What if it just didn't exist? You actually had the option, and that kind of like opened my world. So it started with very simple things, like going zero waste, avoiding bringing your own bottle, your container, and then you start noticing the consumption patterns that you're in, how everything is really automated. Everything that comes in you into your hands, it took a lot of resources, emissions, and then goes on to create waste wherever it exists in the future, when most of it we don't actually really need. So then as I dove into that process and ran down that rabbit hole and started opening my world to understanding our connection to our planet and the way we use things, then I brought people along that journey because I was just so absorbed in it. But when I brought people along that journey with me on social media, then I started to really see what influence means. You don't have to influence people to buy the next thing. You can influence people to reprogram our programming of consumption so that we all live in greater harmony with the planet and ourselves as well.
Wonderful. And you very rightly said to refuse is the best thing that we can do. And I relate to your story very much because when I started my journey, it was similar. I was picking up this waste in classroom and everybody was thinking this person is doing something which is not usual. And why
Mm.
is he doing that? So I can relate to that. And so my next question would be in that sense only because it's really the high time where we need to actually see how we consume, produce, and also dispose of the plastic we use in our daily lives because the planet is literally choking on plastic. I mean, everywhere, every species. So, how do you see the role of celebrities and this big influencers to sensitize people about about combating the plastic pollution? Because it's very huge, it's everywhere. And do you have some experience, or do you know somebody who is also a celebrity like you and have been doing this thing?
Oh, that is a fantastic question because I think when it comes to celebrities and media, it is very much what is normalized. So whatever you put out in media and whatever celebrities do, that tends to be the norm that the mass market would look to. So if you normalize plastic consumption, if you normalize overconsumption, then that is the norm. But if you do the opposite, then that can also be the norm, but it needs to reach a critical mass. And I think celebrities play a very important role in this. So some really great examples that I enjoy is, we have a couple of, we have pockets of celebrities who are really starting to question the way we do things and then going into their own exploration of how they can use their influence, people like Leonardo DiCaprio and so on. But a few of my favorites are the ones that really live to the message. To some extent, and as much as they can, but I think what they have done well is reduce the dissonance because I think it's easy for any of us to come up with a slogan. Plastic is bad, say no to plastic, blah, blah, blah. Um, respect Mother Earth. And then the very next second on social media or in their daily actions, you see them do the complete opposite thing. Then that tends to water down the message because then people think, oh, I can just say it. I don't actually have to do anything about it. So I think a couple of people that I really enjoy looking out for is like Jason Momoa. Jason Momoa is Aquaman as we know him, and I think he's really used his position really well because people know him as Aquaman, and that's his greatest one of his the stickiness of that identity is really there. And Aquaman is king of the ocean, like he's got a it's that's his domain and that's the place that he wants to protect, even if in real life he's Jason Momoa. So it's nice to see him carry that mantle of continuing to become Aquaman and using that identity. And even not just, not using single-use plastic in his life or reducing it greatly, he's not afraid to call out his friends as well. So I think one
Right.
of the really great examples was when he called out Chris Pratt on social media for holding a plastic water bottle and really being kind and gentle about it to say, this is something we can all do. And, you know, you even just by holding a plastic water bottle, it already validates everyone else to use single-use plastic as well. But if you choose differently, then people want to choose differently as well. Um, so I think that was one of my favorite examples because you can see that he's developed the mindset and started to embody it and is not afraid to use his influence not just in saying it out, but continuing to hold other people accountable and invite them on the journey with him as well. The other person I really like is also Adrian Grenier. Most people know him from Entourage, so he's quite active with building up his platform Earth Speed and really immersing himself in that world, stepping away from celebrityhood. Um, so yeah, those are the two favorite examples.
Yeah, and that's what we at Earth Day Network also loves. Like, we have you as the Earth Day ambassadors. There are people like My Future, My Voice ambassadors. In fact, we have artists for the Earth and now athletes for the Earth. So we have this Olympians, and then we have one in India is Ripu Daman Bebli, who's the Plogman of India, and then Ricky Cage, who's a three-time Grammy winner. So getting all these
Mm,
people on the board, it's like the celebrities for Earth. So that is wonderful because people like you, Melissa, have a huge fan following, and if you just go out in the public and say, see, you don't have to use plastic, if you use plastic, I'm not going to like you, people will blindly follow. That is the scenario. I mean, how you mentioned about the Aquaman, that is true. So I have seen your pictures and I've really loved your work with the great global cleanup that you have been doing around in Malaysia and around the world. So, would you like to tell us more about it? How do you engage the communities around it and how you reach out to people? Because I'll give you a fact and it's very interesting. I was just reading about it. There's a website called The World Counts. And I was just saying that already 485 million plus tons of waste we have generated in this year. I mean, it's the
mm,
starting of this year, so it's very bad. And then I dig a little bit more of the research. So it's like on an yearly basis, if we have to combine all the garbage that the countries create, and if we put it in one place, it will extend over 400 hectares. I mean, that is, I was shocked. It is almost 700 football fields.
mm,
And then I did a little bit of more research. If we put it in a mountain kind of a way, with the extending itself, it will cross that. You have a Taming Sari tower in Malaysia, Malacca Tower. It will cross that, and it will touch. There's a the largest monument, the longest monument in Delhi where I live, Qutub Minar. It will touch that. So it's very drastic how the things are changing and people are not changing. So would you like to tell us more about how do you engage people, and you also step on the ground, not just from online, you actually do the cleanup on the ground?
Um, I've always been quite often I feel quite conflicted about cleanups. I feel often quite conflicted about cleanups because it's not actually a solution.
Yeah,
And sometimes when I engage in these things, while they may be great, it is meant to also show people the scale of the problem, not that we should rely on cleanups to
yeah,
continue with the problem. Um, how I engage with the community is I just look out for opportunities to do something. Because I think most of us, we actually have opportunities to do something about issues that we care about every single day. It's just whether we take it. So things like the last great global cleanup project that I did with the Penang State Council and my sister she's a circular economy specialist and she was the one that said, hey, why don't we do this? And why don't we take in all the stakeholders and get in touch with all of them so that this is something that has meat to it and comes up with a structure that then influences data that then gets fed back to academics locally and NGOs locally and the state council locally as well, instead of just being a hey, we did this. We picked up 1,000 kilograms of trash and have it stop there. Because
yeah,
messaging is really important, but data is also really important as well. Sorting is really important as well to understand the kind of trash that is being put out there and what needs to be eliminated from the system altogether. That all needs data. And I think globally there are a lot of great ecosystems and platforms and databases that people can then feed their data into. The one that I can think of right now, I don't know if I have the name correctly, so do correct me if I'm wrong. The IC, we'll have the information for you later. In the Great Global Cleanup site somewhere. Where people can actually conduct their own plugging and own local cleanups,
yeah,
but actually put in the data as well. And that is actually the most painful process, but the most impactful. It is really important for us to remove the waste from the ecosystem, but then also to translate that into data. And that includes sorting, like going through the actual trash, putting them into categories, and then plugging them into these networks. But a plug, a cleanup can happen at any place, at any time,
yeah.
and it doesn't just have to happen on International Coastal Cleanup Day or Great Global Cleanups, because Great Global Cleanups are all year round.
Yes, yes, and true. It's like every day is Earth Day, what we have been discussing, and it's cleanups are very important because these are an entry point. But as you said very correctly, it doesn't have to stop there. It's starting. If somebody's bending down to pick somebody else's waste, they tend to
Mm.
realize something is wrong with us, and they will not throw the waste at least the next time. So, Melissa, an interesting question I wanted to ask you personally also, that around this world, a lot of people are not like you, especially the celebrities and the people who influence a lot of masses, let's say, around the globe. They tend to engage so much in entertainment and the influencing industry that they forget about the mother earth that we have. So have you ever felt like that? I have seen people who have felt like, is it going to impact what I am doing on individual level? Is it really going to have that impact? Should I also just go on, do some more movies, do some more TV series, and get very very famous around the globe and not care about this? What will one plastic bottle will do? Have you also come up with these thoughts in your minds? If yes, how have you, uh, how have you gotten away with that and then stayed on this path which is true to the mother earth?
Um, that is definitely a misconception that we have to break, that one doesn't actually take away from the other, it actually amplifies. Because the world of, pursuing materialism and success, it's great, but if you're not aligning to your values and you're not aligning to your true spirit as a being on this planet, which is meant to live in harmony with the ecosystem and with Mother Earth itself, there is always going to be a disconnect inside of you. So as you pursue all these things, when you also live in alignment to your values, it doesn't actually take away. Because then you'll be pursuing things that also fulfill you and nourish you in the same way, in the way that you actually need, that materialism can't really fulfill. It might at it might kind of fulfill really surface level things, but not that deep belonging that everyone needs to have and is put here to have. So I think even as I go along with it, I think with my lifestyle and still being in entertainment and in the public eye, I serve to live as an example to show people that I'm actually not any less happier, or I'm not actually missing out when I don't engage in wasteful practices, when I don't engage in overconsumption. In fact, these things might seem like surface level, might seem very pleasurable, but when you take it away, then you realize, oh, this is what real joy feels like. This is what real, living your truth feels like when you are more connected to the world around you. And then every other success or achievement that you have, it starts to kind of have a little glimmer around it, more than it itself buffet by materialism can ever give you. But you have to kind of walk through that journey and take those steps for yourself to see, to just be curious and see, hey, where is this going to take me? And how is this going to amplify what I am doing?
That is amazing, and that truly gives this message to the masses that how you are happy and everybody can stay happy, also keeping our earth alive and happy that it
Mhm.
used to be in the beginning. I mean, plastic came in as a miracle material, but now we are realizing that it's a menace, and it's a slow poison that people don't care about. I mean, when diseases and things happen, people care about because it's very on the spot. But plastic is in our bloods. It's now found in the babies, and it's
Mm.
very bad. But with that, I we are almost at the end of our podcast, and I would like to ask you, would you like to give some final message or a thought to our viewers and listeners on this whole theme and on this whole fighting against the plastic pollution?
I would say really take the journey yourself and take it in baby steps, because these things don't happen overnight. But what it does is not just your personal impact to yourself to change the way that you view the world and your role in it. It is also for you to create opportunities and connect other people to resources so they can walk that journey themselves. You brought up earlier how, everyone might always think, but I'm just one person. What does it really matter? Everyone has a ripple effect. Everyone has a circle of influence, whether you're just an individual, you're in a family, you're an employee, you're a business owner, you're part of a community. Wherever you are influencing. You are adding to the culture around you. So when you start doing something, people notice. And even if they don't, you start changing yourself. Like something will shift inside of you so that you cut away the ties of materialism and overconsumption. And then you start to live a more liberated life because of it. So I used to, be so consumed. I was the epitome of consumption a decade ago, just being drawn into, all these shiny, bright things. And then I realized how much time, energy, and of myself I was giving away instead of being a creator, and creating positive influence in the world that kind of feeds back into me. When you give out this way, it's always going to keep sucking you and sucking you. But when you create this positive feedback loop for yourself, then that people start reverberating and feeling it outside of you as well. And once you start seeing that, then you see how powerful you truly are. So, it's not just about um, doing it on your own, is helping other people develop that curiosity for themselves as well. So we can all live, more aligned lives to what we're truly put here to be.
That's amazing. That's a wonderful message. And thank you so much, Melissa, for sharing your experience as a celebrity for the Earth, as an Earth Day ambassador, as an influencer to actually do the work which helps yourself and the planet. So thank you so much for joining.
Thank you so much, Rumit.
Yeah. And for the audience, remember, keep it clean, keep it green, and every day is Earth Day.